there is a crow sitting on the fence post at the end of your yard. It has been sitting there for exactly 11 minutes. You know this because you actually watched it land, thought absolutely nothing of it, and went right back to what you were doing. But when you looked up again, it was still there. Same position, same angle. One eye tilted just slightly right in your direction. You went to the window. It didn't move. You stepped outside. It just shifted its weight, not away from you, not towards you either. It just adjusted, recalibrated. Honestly, it was like a machine that was already mid-calculation and simply added this new variable without even breaking its train of thought. You went back inside, and you had this strange, totally unshakable feeling that you had just been looked at in a way that was different from how an animal usually looks at a person. It wasn't looking at you hungrily. It wasn't looking at you fearfully. It was assessing you. And here's the thing you didn't know yet, standing there at that window. That crow wasn't trying to decide whether you were interesting. It was deciding whether you were trustworthy. And it had already been running that exact evaluation for 3 weeks before you even noticed it was there. See? Most people who decide they want to befriend a crow start with this simple, confident assumption. They genuinely think they are the ones initiating the relationship. They bring out some food. They choose a good spot. They establish a routine. They're patient. They're consistent. They're deliberate about it. And slowly over days or weeks, the crow gets a little bit closer. It accepts the food. Eventually, it lands nearby, then within arm's reach, and then it finally takes something directly from their hand. And the person feels, completely reasonably, like they did the work, like their strategy succeeded, like they built this connection. But here is what they don't know. By the time a crow takes food from your hand for the very first time, it has already collected more behavioral data on you than most people collect on a new acquaintance in months. It literally knows your schedule down to a margin of about 4 minutes. It knows which side of the house you walk out of, and exactly what pace you walk at depending on where you're going. It knows the difference between the way you move when you're in a massive hurry and the way you move when you actually have time. It has watched you interact with other people and logged how your behavior changes. It has seen you in moments you didn't think a single soul was watching. You didn't initiate the relationship. You just responded to an invitation you didn't even know you'd received. And that distinction, it changes everything about what befriending a crow actually means. The very first thing a crow evaluates is consistency. Not friendliness, just consistency. A person who comes outside at totally erratic times, leaves food unpredictably, changes their approach every single day, moves differently every time, that person scores incredibly low. And it's not because they're necessarily dangerous. It's just because they're unreadable. In a crow's mind, an unreadable human is basically indistinguishable from a threatening one. Predictability is the first real test. And honestly, it's a test most people completely fail without even realizing they're taking it. Just think about what you actually look like from up on a fence post. You walk outside. You look directly at the crow, which, in the animal world, is a textbook predator move. You make sudden movements to offer them food. You vary your distance from day to day. You bring different items at different times. Sometimes you talk. Sometimes you don't. From a crow's perspective, this is just chaotic behavior. It might be fascinating, sure, but it isn't safe. The people who successfully befriend crows the fastest aren't the ones who try the hardest. They're the ones who manage to become boring in the most precise way possible. Same time, same exact spot, same offering, same posture, same non-threatening gaze looking slightly downward, never direct, never staring them down. The crow isn't warming up to your personality. It's just confirming that your pattern is stable. It's making sure you are a known quantity in an environment that is full of unknowns. And once you pass that first threshold, the evaluation doesn't just stop there. It actually deepens. There's a behavior researchers call the pass-fail assessment, and once you know what to look for, you will see it everywhere. A crow lands close to the food you just left, but instead of eating it right away, it picks something up. Drop it. Look right at you. Pick it up again. Now this isn't indecision. This is a deliberate act designed to force a reaction out of you. The crow is watching to see exactly what you do when something unexpected happens near it. Do you lunge forward? Do you pull back? Do you freeze? Do your hands move, or does your weight shift? Every single micro response you give in that moment is data. The crow is reading your threat response, not to what it does, but to what it does near you. The whole test is whether proximity itself changes your behavior. They want to see if you become unpredictable the second the dynamic shifts. If you can just stay still and neutral, you pass. If you react, even if it's with excitement, even if it's positive energy, you've just introduced a variable, and variables at this stage of the game lower the trust calculation. This is exactly why seasoned crow feeders will tell you the most important skill isn't actually patience, it's controlled indifference. It's not about ignoring the crow, it's about being so comfortable with it that its movement near you doesn't make you move. The crow doesn't need to see that you like it. It just wants to see that you don't need it to behave any particular way. But this is where things get really strange. Because the crow isn't just evaluating you in isolation, it is running a massive social cross-reference. And you probably have no idea how wide that reference network actually is. If you have a partner, a housemate, or even a neighbor who regularly shows up in that same space, the crow is building behavioral profiles on all of them at the exact same time. And your trust score is, in part, directly influenced by theirs. You could score incredibly high with a crow, but see your standing completely drop just because you're consistently seen next to someone who acts erratically, or who made a threatening gesture weeks ago. The crow's model of you is contextual. It matters who you associate with. This is the behavior that most closely resembles what we call social intelligence in the clinical sense. The crow isn't just tracking individuals anymore. It's tracking the relationships between individuals. It's mapping out the social geometry of your entire household. And somewhere inside that map, you have a very specific position, a designation, a clearance level, for lack of a better term, that dictates exactly what that crow will and won't do around you. The threat simulation is the test that most people never even realize happened. At some point while you're building that relationship, usually right when you're on the verge of genuine trust, a crow will do something that feels like a massive setback. It will suddenly startle, even though you didn't even move. It'll call out loudly and fly off from a distance that felt totally comfortable yesterday. It might even just completely avoid your yard for 2 or 3 days. Most people look at this and think it's a regression. They instantly assume they did something wrong, but you didn't. The crow actually manufactured that little drama intentionally, just to see how you'd handle it. They're watching to see if you change your behavior. Do you start coming outside more often? Do you start bringing out better food? Do you alter your approach or desperately try to reestablish contact? Or do you just keep your exact same routine without changing a thing? Do you trust the relationship enough to not panic over a single weird interaction? See, the crows that end up forming the deepest bonds with humans, the ones that eventually land on people's shoulders, show up when they're called, bring gifts, and sit inches from your face. They chose people who passed that threat simulation without breaking pattern. Those people proved that their reliability wasn't conditional on constant feedback. They showed they were stable, even when they were being ignored, and that is exactly what the crow was waiting to confirm. Not affection. They wanted to see resilience. When a crow finally gives you what researchers loosely call clearance, that obvious shift where the hesitation just vanishes, where the landing becomes totally casual, and it looks at you with something that feels unmistakably like ease, something else shifts right along with it. You start noticing things you completely missed before, a specific sound at the edge of the yard, an unusual flash of feathers in the tree line, a crow flying overhead, calling out in a pattern that sounds totally distinct from its usual background noise, and gradually it hits you. You aren't just watching a single bird anymore. You are now a node in a massive network that was already running long before you got there. The crow that cleared you has already filed away your description, your location, and your daily schedule. And all the other crows in the area? They've received the update. You didn't just make a friend. You basically signed a contract with an organization. Now, go back to that fence post. The crow that's been sitting there for 11 minutes, the one you just assumed was a bird resting in your yard. Look at it again with what you know now. It's not resting. It's working. It's running an assessment with the kind of patience you only get from something that has no deadline and an incredible memory. It's deciding based on variables you don't even realize you're broadcasting, whether the human in that house is actually worth the risk of getting close to. And somewhere inside a calculation you will never fully see, a conclusion is being reached. See, the question isn't whether you're interesting enough for a crow. The real question is, are you consistent enough? Are you calm enough? Are you predictable enough? Is the person you are when nobody appears to be watching, and believe me, there is almost always a crow watching the exact same person you are when you know you're being observed. Because here's the thing, the crow already knows the answer to that. It's known for weeks. The only one still figuring it out is you. Tell me, have you ever had a crow seem to test you like that? Like a moment where it suddenly backed off right when you thought things were progressing? Drop it in the comments. Because honestly, I think way more people have been right in the middle of a crow evaluation without even realizing it.